Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a collab with Tania from Bits and Bags. What is our collab about? Well, Tania happens to be my Paisan from down under. Yes, Tania is Australian Italian and I am Italian American. Or Italian Australian, would you say? So anyway, we decided to do a collab talking about how we experience Christmas. And I'm not really sure. I mean, I know I'm used to what I do here, or what I should say, what I grew up with here, because I don't actually do it anymore, but some of my friends have done it recently. But in general, we're going to be talking about Italian Christmas. First of all, Christmas is a huge holiday for Italians, okay? For Italian Americans, it's not even Christmas, okay? It's Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is the main event. Like, sure, exchanging presents, waiting for Santa Claus, all that stuff is really exciting. It's exciting for the kids. It's exciting for the parents to, see their kids open presents. But the real deal is Christmas Eve. Because Christmas Eve, we do Feast of the Seven Fishes. Now, I haven't done a Feast of the Seven Fishes, although I did have fish last year. Traditionally, it's supposed to be 7 fishes, but it could be an odd number of fish. So if you're going to do 3 or 5, sometimes depending on how many people are actually going to come, that's how you would determine how many different fish. And they have to be different fish prepared in different ways. So basically, like, the countdown to Christmas starts probably a couple of weeks before, because you have to source all of your fish. You have to decide on the menu. Now, my grandmother used to do Christmas Eve every year, and we would have bacala, shrimp, smelts, minnow, mussels. I think she used to do a leech gravy and crab. So that was 7 fish. And they would be prepared galamad. I'm sorry, not crab, galamad. So my grandmother used to make stuffed galamad, which is squid, or what some of you Americans might call calamari. It would be the body of the galamad, and it would be stuffed with breadcrumb and basically a breadcrumb mixture. Some people do put some egg white or some other bits and bobs in there, but basically it's a breadcrumb, and usually there's like an egg to bind it. So that would get cooked in gravy, tomato sauce for all of you outsiders. And I don't know what Tania calls it, probably sauce. But anyway, that would get cooked in the gravy, and then the tentacles, that would all get thrown in there too. I personally never ate galamad when I was a little girl. I used to just think it was just ick. And I would tell my grandmother, like, oh, I'm not dealing with that. And I was at my friend's house one year, and her family, who I knew, for years and years and years, they didn't realize that I was Italian. They thought I was Irish. So they were explaining to me what actually galamad was and what it tastes like, et cetera, et cetera. And my friend's mother said, no. She knows what it is. She's Italian. She just doesn't want to eat it. So they all went nuts. Oh, I might have told this story on the channel before. And how could you not eat it? And it's so good, blah, blah, blah. So I had my first taste, and I've been addicted ever since. It takes forever to make because it's hard to clean the galamad and then to do the stuffing. Then you have to close it with some toothpicks. It's very delicate, and it takes a bunch of time, but well worth it. My grandmom used to do the bacala, and she would soak it for like days and days and days, because bacala is a salted cod, and it's hard, it's stiff as a board, and you have to soak it to get most of the salt off. Then she would cut it up in pieces, and she would deep fry it, bread it and deep fry it. Same with the smelts, same with the minnows. And my dad only ate shellfish, so he was at my grandmother's one year, and he was getting ready to work because he had to work at night, and he ate the bacala. And nobody told him what it was. And he said, oh, Mom, these are the best shrimp I ever had. Well, my grandmother said, you tell him and I kill you. And she would have too. She definitely didn't want to ruffle any feathers. She was just glad that he enjoyed it. So yeah, I remember eating the minnows, just crunching the bones and everything, because they would just be like little crunchy little potato chips. They were so, so yummy. And smelts aren't really that much bigger. So yeah, you would definitely be eating a good bit of those. But from weeks before, you would start preparing your menu and also figuring out who was going to come. And typically it would be the whole family. Whoever was doing the dinner, the whole family would come over. So my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, even if they didn't stay the whole time, which most of them did, they would come in for a little bit. And we would drink homemade wine, my grandmother's homemade vermouth. And on the radio or on the record player, we would have Mary Alonzo's Christmas, which was my grandmother's favorite. And it was my Aunt Dolly's favorite. And then we'd have Frank Sinatra Christmas and Dean Martin. And sometimes later in the evening, after everybody drank a lot, they'd start to put on recordings of the mummers, like records. You could actually buy a record, okay, an album that featured songs by the Mummers Brigade. And the Mummers Parade is our New Year's parade here in Philly. And it's just different groups of like marching bands. And they put on the sequin costumes and they do a routine. The string bands do. And they play string instruments like the banjo. They play the glockenspiel, which of course is not a string instrument. But how often in life do you hear a glockenspiel? And there's a couple of woodwinds thrown in there, but basically they're called string bands because the banjo is the featured instrument. And then people would start to do the mummer strut. And then at midnight, everybody would either go to midnight mass or put mass on TV and watch it in the living room on TV. But my uncles would spend a good part of the night in the basement playing pinochle, which is an Italian card game. I never learned how to play. My mom knew how to play, but I never learned how to play. But we would have all kinds of cookies that my grandmother and my mother and I would help to bake. So some of the favorites that we would have, of course, would be Italian biscotti. You can't have Christmas without biscotti. We would have pizzelles. My mom used to do pizzelles like a million different ways. She would roll them. She would stuff them with chocolate chips. She had a couple of different flavors that she would make. She'd make chocolate pizzelles. We'd have butter cookies, which are basically not Italian, but, you know, we kind of pretended that they were. We would have stuffed biscuits, stuffed with mincemeat and rolled up and cut and sliced. And let me tell you guys, if I ever get the energy to bake, the prices they charge at the bakeries for biscuits is just absolutely insane because they are not hard to make at all and they don't cost much either. But they were some of our favorites. And usually somebody would go to Termini's earlier in the day or maybe even the day before and pick up some cannolis, some cream puffs, maybe some sfogliatelle, just, you know, an assortment of cakes. We would always have chestnuts. Chestnuts was like a big, big, big deal. Castagna. And the castagna would be roasted in the oven because nobody had a fire or a fireplace. And the whole house would just smell this wonderful, wonderful smell. I have not roasted any chestnuts recently, but my parents used to do it every year. And we finally got a technique to let the chestnut peel from the shell easier. I can't remember exactly what it was. Otherwise, I would go ahead and do it myself. But the whole prep up until Christmas was part of the fun. And having all of the women in the kitchen together, usually the guys didn't do anything, but it was mostly the women who did the cooking, the baking, getting together the tables, because we would have to have lots of space on the dining room table, in the kitchen, at the kitchen table, at the card table in the basement. And, you know, people sat down to eat. We'd have to make sure that there were enough dishes to serve everybody. And then always, always enough food in case somebody came over. And usually there would be people stopping by and bringing a bottle. I remember as a little girl, my grandmother And grandfather used to make homemade wine. My grandmother would make the homemade vermouth, and they would give me some. And from when I was a tiny, tiny little girl, I used to have wine and cream soda. And a lot of times on Christmas, I'd sneak some extra glasses, and it was just so much fun. So as I got older and, you know, had friends that were not close by, but still I could walk to their house, I used to leave my family and I would go and visit my friends. And basically it would be the same thing happening in their house. A lot of laughs, a lot of merriment, everybody just really enjoying themselves and having a great time. And they would, of course, always have food. And it's insulting for an Italian if they offer you food and then you don't take it, or if you don't want to at least try something, and always to try something that you're not really familiar with so that you have a taste of, you know, the holiday. And it was just a really, really magical time. I remember going with my grandmother to the Italian market in Philly to go pick up cheese, to go pick up fish. She sometimes used to make babaluch, which are snails, and she put the snails in the gravy, and you have to pick it out with a hat pin. So that was one of the things that she did. And I remember going up to Gimbel's on Market Street and going to see Santa Claus at Lip Brothers. And I mean, back then it was just such a big deal to go into the city, and it was like, oh, you're going into the city and, you know, you're doing some really cool things. But little by little, those things started to disappear, and we would just basically have the holiday at home. But it was really like just the most magical time of the year. So the last time we did a really big Christmas Eve feast, my friend Lisa wanted to do Christmas like it used to be, and she did quite a few different kinds of fish, but she also made chicken parm, and everybody went to her house, and we just really gathered together, because that's the important thing, and that's what people really look forward to. It's just all about family and being with your family and enjoying time together and spending time with people that you don't see all the time. And it was just wonderful. I mean, what can I say? Sometimes we would sit around and we would, you know, like the younger kids would watch Christmas cartoons, but a lot of times we were just there enjoying the music and enjoying the food and talking with our relatives, and then just dreaming of Santa Claus. So my grandmother had told me about La Befana, who brings the toys in Italy. And I don't remember the whole story of La Befana, but she was basically a good witch, and she would come and bring toys to the kids in the little towns in Italy. And it was just really a special thing for her to share that with me. Another thing that happens on Christmas Eve is you are able to learn how to do the Malocchia, the prayer, and that's the overlooks in Italian. So basically, if somebody gives you the evil eye, there's a special prayer that you can say for the person. So like, say I'm getting a lot of headaches, or I'm just like kind of feeling like not right, I'd say to my grandmother, like, Gram, I think I have the overlooks. And she would take something like typically a ring, she would say prayers over it, she'd put oil in water, and, you know, she'd tell you if it was strong or not strong. And then she was saying the prayer, she would yawn. And I guess that was removing the overlooks. But the only time that you're allowed to teach it to somebody is midnight on Christmas Eve. And unfortunately, I never learned how to do it. My friend Diana knows how to do it, and I would like for her to teach me. So that was also a special tradition. Not everyone in my family learned, and I don't really know why, and I'm almost positive that it's only women who can learn to do it. I've never known of men with the overlooks, but Italians are very, very big into the evil eye and, you know, people giving you the overlooks. And that's why we have the horn, the cornuta, what it's called, and the pepper, which is also really a horn. those things are to ward off the overlooks. So I'm curious how many of these traditions you know about, and if you are an Italian American, what do you do for your holiday, or whatever your origin is, what's your holiday? And please go over to Tania and watch her video and see how she celebrates as an Italian Australian. I cannot wait. I absolutely cannot wait to see her video. And guys, always be proud of your heritage. I mean, just because I say that I'm proud to be Italian, and I'm proud to have a lot of you guys who are really my paisans. Tania's my paisan, and even if you're not a paisan, I still love you. So it's really just nice to share your heritage and your background. And, you know, the more you know, the more you're able to enjoy things and the more you're able to appreciate people, I think. So thank you guys for watching. Trying to feel a little bit better every day, and, you know, trying to keep my spirits up, and we're getting closer to Christmas. I hope that all of your preparations are going well, and I will see you soon. Bye.